Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. This is the Chi Naija sewing space where you learn to sew and style the wardrobe of your dreams. Today's video I'm going to be talking about good sewing habits that you need to cultivate in your sewing journey through your sewing life. You know, these help you avoid great accidents in the sewing place, and they just make sewing more effortless for you, give your garments a nice look, a nice finish, a very, should we say, non-homey look. Okay, I have a series about this. I've talked about ways to increase your sewing efficiency, and what was about things I wish I knew when I started sewing. So I will put the playlist for you guys in the cards and in the description. If it's not in the cards, because there's only like 5 spots, it will definitely be in the description. And you know what, guys, as you're listening to these tips, if any of them seems right to you, if this is the first time you're hearing anyone, if you even disagree with any of these tips, because I know like 1 or 2 of the tips people are like, no it's not, this is an old wives tale, no but yeah, just let me know in the comments how, I mean, like, if you agree with any of these tips I'm giving out, and leave some of your own tips as well. And do stick around till the very end of the video, where the last tip, if you didn't know, I have 8 tips for you guys. The 8th tip is something to do with your sewing machine as well. Good habits to form with your sewing machine, and to, I won't say anything more, just watch till the end to know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's get on with the video. The first tip for a good habit to form while you are sewing or through your sewing journey is to take your foot off the pedal while your hands are by the needle. Okay, because trust me, accidents have happened just because, you know, you when your foot is on the pedal and your hands are there, you might be doing something else and accidentally, you know, just apply a little bit of pressure. And if you have those sewing machines that so fast, you know, like 200, 300, 400 stitches per minute, I mean, before you know it, you have sewn through your fingers, your fingernails, and that is just a disaster that we want to avoid. Now, the second tip for good habits to form while you are sewing is to check if your fabric that you're working with has, you know, it's difficult to tell the wrong side from the right side. It's always a good idea to put some sort of marking on the wrong side or the right side, whichever you choose. I personally, I take a piece of fabric chalk and I put a big X on the wrong side of my fabric, you know, like X bad, and is on the wrong side of the fabric, so it's easier for me to remember. And I also talk about this in my sewing efficiency video, which this is also another way of helping you become more efficient in sewing. Just make things go by faster, so that you're not, you know, maybe you keep a project down and you come back to it weeks later, you're not wondering, oh, which side is which, you know. It's not good. It doesn't help. It just adds on time to an otherwise lengthy project. Okay, now the third thing that can help you form good habits when you're sewing is to keep your sewing tools, especially your scissors, in order. Fabric scissors for fabric only, paper scissors for paper only, because as you know, this scissors can get quite expensive, and paper is wood, so it does actually dull your scissors like faster than cutting fabric would. Okay, this is just like is a very old tip in the sewing community, but it's one to watch out for and a good habit to form. So my 4th and my 5th tip go hand in hand, which is to press your seams as you go and to trim your threads as you go, because I know it seems a little bit nitpicky, like you're being a bit extra, but trust me, it's because, I mean, even pressing as you go is not being extra. Trust me, it's the right thing to do, because it makes your project look so much more crisp, nicer, and the finished product is better. But trimming your threads as you go, I think people think is being a bit extra, but it's not, because you don't want threads dangling out from different places when you're sewing or when you're done with the project, and cutting it then. I don't know, it's like if you form the habit and you see someone who doesn't have that habit of trimming their threads as they go along in their sewing, you understand. I mean, it's something best seen to fully grasp how it looks and how it adds to your sewing, but trust me, it does. Now, the sixth tip I want to give you guys is something that, I mean, like, I shouldn't be saying this, but some people, I don't know what people think, putting pins in their mouths when they're sewing. I know you can be in the zone and you can be like, pin this, but no. Putting pins in your mouth is a big no-no, because like I said, accidents do happen, okay? Instead of putting a pin in your mouth, invest in a pin holder for your hand. You know, they're easy to make, cheap and cheerful, and you avoid accidents. You avoid poking yourself in the mouth with a pin and having blood everywhere. And trust me, I've heard horror stories that you do not want in your sewing journey. Okay, now tip number 7 is also something I have talked about in ways to become an efficient sewist, and it was part of my sewing plans for 2021, is to make a muslin first. Now trust me, this might be something you think only haute couture sewists do, but no, it's not. It's a good habit to get into, trust me. That way you make less mistakes. It makes you even, like, right now I know from the benefit of making muslins, I know that if I cut anything on the bias, I automatically take out like half an inch at the bottom, especially if it's on the waist, because anything cut on the bias stretches and all that good stuff. You wouldn't know that if you weren't, you know, if you didn't like make a muslin and correct, you know, have the time, settle down, see all those mistakes, correct them, learn from them before you cut into your very expensive fabric. And by then, sewing becomes a breeze, trust me. I've actually started on this, and I'm very happy that it's one of my goals for 2021 that I have accomplished so far. Okay, another good habit to form for your sewing, this is our 8th tip for the day, is to always know, like, no matter the project you're starting, you know, by the time you've planned out what your project is, take out a scrap piece of fabric from the fabric you're actually going to make use of. Test your stitches, test your tension. If you're going to be doing top stitches, test it, see if maybe if the fabric is lighter and you want your top stitching to pop out, you might consider, you know, increasing the stitch length, or putting interfacing at the back, so just to give the lighter fabric greater weight, so that it usually makes the top stitching pop out. Okay, it's easy to do. It won't take you that long at all, 2-3 minutes, you're done. But it's like makes you feel like you have everything, all the parts to the sewing, so that by the time you take your fabric to the sewing machine to actually start sewing, things just move, you know, like quick like that, and you're good to go. Now, the 9th good habit it is to form about your sewing, and this also increases your sewing efficiency, is to write everything down. You know, like have a sewing journal, put everything down, your needle size you're using, what length stitch you're using, if you're doing a top stitch, what length top stitch you're using, your hem allowance, because you can use different hems for different types of fabric or different projects. So you write all that down, so that, like I said, you could leave a project and come back to it a month, 2 months, even a week later, so that you know what it is you're doing. You can start back from where you stopped. You know, everything becomes so seamless. You wouldn't, you know, be wondering, oh, how did I get here, how did I get here? And at the end of the day, your fabric, I mean, you wouldn't know what you're doing on that project again, and it makes you even not want to finish it, because you're like, oh, I don't know what this is, let me start on something else new. Now we're at our final tip. So it turns out I have like 10 tips for good habits for you to form while you're sewing. Now the 10th tip is something to do with your sewing machine, like I said, and It seems easy, but people ask me this all the time. I even had to make a video of me cleaning my sewing machine as a way to help people with this tip. And the tip is, I've already said it, clean your sewing machine regularly. I don't even know how, as a newbie sewist, I went like years without cleaning my machine, and next thing you know, your stitches don't come out right, your machine sounds funny, things are acting up, you know. So a good rule of thumb is to clean your machine before a new project. Okay, not just clean out, like properly clean out your machine, open things, wipe, wipe out your machine, and also change your needle every new project. You know, if you calculate that it takes you about, well, like myself, it takes me about like a week, 2 weeks to finish a project. So every week, 2 weeks, I am cleaning my machine, and it is very, very important for the longevity of your sewing machine. If you know you want your sewing machine to last you months and months and months, do take this tip very seriously. As a matter of fact, I feel like this is the most important tip out of all these good habit tips that I'm giving you here. I feel this is the most important tip. Okay guys, thank you for sticking with me to the end of the video. If you got to the end of the video, please do say hi, and I'll let you guys go now, but don't forget to keep sewing and subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video.